Welcome to the show, everybody. Well, I think Keir Starmer is an utterly delusional gaslighter.
A Conservative government, I can sleep at night. If there was a right-wing government in the United Kingdom, that would be a different proposition. My worry is, and this is how history tells us, is that a right-wing proposition like that, with fantastical ideas, leaning towards Russia, if it gets into power, it will find that its policies don't work, and it won't become more progressive. It won't nudge towards the centre. It'll go to the right, to the right, to the right. We've not faced that in this country ever.
Well, hang on a second. Has this bloke looked in the mirror anytime recently? Isn't it Labour that scrapped 2 national elections now? Is it not Labour that's decided to push through digital ID without any electoral consent by the British public? Isn't it Labour that's scrapping jury trials, joining Nazi Germany, Stalin's Russia, Mussolini's fascist Italy and Mao Zedong's communist China?
Let's begin. Firstly, their economics is pure fantasy. They've just got billions and billions of pounds that they say they will either spend or save without any plans to do so.
Is he living in a completely alternative reality? Weren't he and his Chancellor just met with a nationwide chorus of people saying, "You lied to us about the state of the public finances"? Hasn't his government blown the economy to pieces and set record high taxes, inflation running wild again, unemployment rising every single month after promising to do the exact opposite in Labour's manifesto? Is that not what Labour have done so far? Is it not Labour that targeted the vulnerable with tax and energy policies, leaving pensioners freezing and the people that feed us, our great farmers, with an uncertain future?
They do not want to live in the tolerant, diverse country that we are. I'm proud that we're a diverse, tolerant, compassionate, live and let live country, and I want to represent all parts of that.
Ah, yes, our diverse and tolerant country under the Labour Party. How could I forget? How could I forget? A country that now locks people up for hurty words on social media. A country that now gives free rein to anti-Semitic hate marches up and down the country. A country that now allows screams of jihad and intifada on the streets, while Jewish football fans are banned from games in Britain on their watch. I don't know about all of you at home, but I'm completely fed up with feeling gaslit and lied to by the people sitting in Downing Street, who are meant to, at the bare minimum, tell us the truth, even if we don't like to hear what they have to say. But the sheer gall of this Prime Minister to claim other political parties are a threat to this country, when actually, in my opinion, this is the most dangerous, Orwellian, incompetent and divisive government in British history.
Hello, I'm Bev Turner. Now, it can feel like the money in our bank accounts at the moment does not keep up with the cost of living, and maybe there's a solution. I'm here today with the CEO of TallyMoney, Cameron Parry. Cameron, what is TallyMoney?
Well, Bev, with TallyMoney, you get a current account and a debit card, but instead of pounds, you use milligrams of gold as your everyday money.
So why gold?
Gold traditionally is a great store of value. It has, on average, gone up at over 11% per annum for the last 25 years against the pound. It's tripled in value in the last decade, and in the last 2 years alone, it's increased by 50% against the pound. Banks' savings products just can't compete with that level of growth.
But this isn't just about gold. This is about a currency that you guys have created at TallyMoney. Explain it to me as though I'm an idiot.
So, look, people need to be able to hold their earnings and build their savings in a money that retains its value and remains in their legal control and remains theirs to access, away from government control.
Great. You had me at not exposed to government control.
You should feel safe and happy with your money. You should have peace of mind the more money you see in your bank balance, and that's the type of thing we're trying to deliver, and give people choice in the type of money they get to use every day.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Cameron. Thank you.
Well, let's get the thoughts of my panel on this tonight. Former Scotland Yard detective Peter Bleksley, commissioning editor at The Spectator Lara Brown, and former Labour advisor Matthew Larzer. Right, well, Peter, I'll start with you. I saw this interview the Prime Minister had done with The Economist, and my jaw just hit the desk. I was like, what am I watching a man who isn't even living the same world as me? Because everything he's saying is so bad about a man who's never been in government, Nigel Farage, and the Reform Party that's a new party. His government have already done all those terrible things, in my opinion.
I think we might have agreement on the panel on one point, OK, and probably one point only this evening, and that is that the government's job is to serve the people. This government, under Starmer, appears to want to enslave the people through digital ID, not in the party manifesto, never put to a referendum, for example, and there's going to be huge pushback against it, I'm sure, I hope, and the abolition of jury trials for thousands upon thousands of cases. An absolute cornerstone, not only of our criminal justice system, but a fundamental of our society. That if the establishment chooses to lock me up and accuse me of a crime, that I would therefore have the right to be tried by 12 of my peers, 12 members of the public, not an establishment figure.
I certainly agree. That's one of the most shocking things that's come out of the last few weeks. And we heard time and time again. And I think one of our good friends who was on this panel with us, I won't say their name, Peter, but you know who I mean, saying, it looks like they're backtracking on it now. We're sort of happy about that as a Labour supporter. Now, Matthew, we know that that's going ahead, unfortunately. The Prime Minister...
To a limited extent. I mean, it's not the abolition of all jury trials.
It's under 5 years, is it? Under 5 years?
It's under 3. Under 3
years. Still quite...
So it's gone from 1 to 3, if I'm right.
Either way, it's not a good look. It's very bad communication from the government. However, this sort of weird dystopian world we're living in, that the government seem to be quite content with digital ID, which has got massive pushback from Labour Party activists, by the way, still going ahead, and he's sitting there calling reform a threat.
Well, because he believes that reform is a threat to the politics that he believes in. I mean, I think I would rather we weren't doing, as a country, having to do the reduction in the number of people who can opt for a jury trial. The reason is that there are 90,000 cases waiting. At the moment, the average wait for many types of cases is 5 years. Peter will know from his decades of experience how that threatens the whole justice system, because you have witnesses fall out. You have victims who won't give testimony, just think they've had enough. You have people who die in the interim period because it's 5 years. I personally maybe brought it in as a time-limited measure, say we need to clear the backlog and then we can reduce it. But I don't think the backlog can go on digital ID cards. I think in the age when your phone is tracking you, your digital ID card won't be tracking you in the same way. We need to get real, and for accessing a whole range of services. All these people who say we don't want people accessing the NHS, who can't access the NHS.
It's such a load of rubbish, isn't it? I've heard it time and time again. Oh, your digital ID card's not going to track you. Oh, it will be a year until they change their mind on that one. And this is the problem. They have constantly, in my opinion, misled and misguided us as to what their intentions are before government, now during government. So I don't trust them when they say, your digital ID is not going to track you, Lara.
I mean, it's the deception which is so difficult to manage with this party. Look at digital ID. They know it's unpopular. They tried it before in a different government. They don't put it in the manifesto, and they immediately bring it forward. They say it won't track you, and maybe they will try not to track you, but look at the number of government leaks we see from the NHS, from the health service. It's constant. It will happen. And on juries, if you're going to take away a defined right that we've had in this country for 700 years, you need to run with that on your manifesto. I do not believe this is the answer to the backlog. Look at the backlog. We've got 90,000 cases. Why is that happening? The CPS, which is underfunded and overworked and not passing on information helpfully. You've got the translation problem. A lot of cases now need very specific translation, which we can't provide. And you've got the incompetence of the prison service, who aren't providing criminals from their cells to trials. That's not going to be fixed.
We can act on all three of those. I mean, particularly the
thing is, even if you prosecute them and you put them in prison, they'll be let out by accident. 2 a week at the moment, Peter.
But this is so important, and it's not just a backlog. If there was some imaginative thinking, creative thinking, and you got the courts that are sitting empty, working, and if you extended judges' working hours, and there are so many other practical steps steps that would be taken by a forthright, robust government that would get a grip of the criminal justice system. You imagine you walk into a shop and you get unfairly accused of stealing something, let's say a phone worth £1,000, for example, and you are denied the right to go to jury trial. You could be, through a miscarriage of justice, convicted of a crime you didn't commit.
Good point.
You would, in all likelihood, if a judge decided your guilt, lose your job, you could lose your home, your relationship might crumble, you might lose access to your children, and all because of an autocratic government that wants to abolish jury trials. And one more point while I'm on it, which is really important, and not one commentator has raised this. If you've ever served on a jury, there will have been times, most likely, when you will have been sent out of the court while a point of law is discussed. OK, it's happened to virtually anybody who's sat on a jury. During those points of law, matters are discussed about the admissibility of evidence a lot of the time. And sometimes a judge will hear conclusive evidence as to somebody's guilt or somebody's innocence, but it may not be. It will be excluded from the trial. So the jury will never hear it. So we are expecting judges to unhear what they've heard, to dismiss that from their minds, and then come to an impartial decision. No one's mentioned that, and that's a deeply worrying thing.
I didn't know that. So it's really
really
good bit of information there. But, you know, we talk about some of these free speech cases, Peter. We talk about them a lot here. And there was a Labour councillor who was cleared by a jury. Had some of the other people in these free speech cases, I think, had a jury. I think the jury might have come to the exact same conclusion, Lara, because when peers are invited, your peers are invited to judge you, well, they're more likely to put themselves in your shoes and go, what if this was me? And that's the whole point of the jury system, isn't it? To hold the establishment to account on those laws.
We've seen several years now of horrendous state overreach, applying very old legislation not written for the internet to people's tweets, their Facebook posts, and hauling them before a court unfairly. And what we currently have is the jury as a last line of defence, people who bring common sense to these cases and regularly acquit people from across the political spectrum, saying you are clearly not guilty, you're clearly not a threat to your community, you're innocent. Once you take away those peers, you remove that element and you open people up to huge vulnerability to state overreach, which we are seeing horrendously. I think we'll see far more convictions for free speech without juries.
Or more importantly, Lara, if I might say so, sometimes juries will find somebody not guilty because they don't like the fact that the state prosecuted them for a crime. They'll set the evidence aside and almost return a verdict based on principle. And that is all going to get washed away by
fair
this
enough.
vile government.
Matthew, final word to you on all of this. Because I mean, really what I was talking about tonight is just the lack of acknowledgement by this government that it's accusing parties of being this dangerous threats here, there and everywhere. But actually, when you look at Labour's track record in office so far, it's not been very libertarian. In fact, I think it's been quite Orwellian and very authoritarian. It's not been socialist in any way, not for the people.
Well, I don't know. I think people might say that the two-child benefit, and the budget was quite left-wing. I mean, much of the criticism was it was too left-wing. Look, I mean, you know, I think that the government has got to up its game if it's going to get re-elected. It's currently not exactly shining in the opinion polls, so clearly there are a lot of problems. I hope we can do two things, which is grip the criminal justice system. Labour inherited the 90,000 backlog and inherited the mess of the prison service, and it needs to get a grip of both of them. If it doesn't, it will be punished just as the Tories were last year.
All these black holes everywhere, Matthew.
It's a fact!
I don't know what I'm going to
They didn't build a single prison for a decade.
When I'm going to hear the end of the Tories are to blame and this government takes some responsibility and accountability for its own actions. I suspect it never will. There we go, though.